Hello there! Day 60 of the Ewan McGregor-a-thon, and today I will be watching Dr. Sleep. Except that that's not really true. You see, I will not be watching Dr. Sleep because I already have watched it today. You see, I was planning on making a pre-thoughts video and then I didn't. But not to worry, I did write down some pre-thoughts, so I shall just be sharing them now. First of all, I would like to say that I have seen The Shining and I didn't really care for it. I appreciate all the cinematic innovations and just everything artsy about it. It's just that it didn't really interest me. I'm not a huge fan of the horror genre, so horror movies, whether they are classics or new films, just don't really interest me. However, there are some notable exceptions. I have been watching The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix and I really enjoy that series. Also, I think the It films are really good. It is also by Stephen King, so I suppose that before watching this film I was kind of hoping that this film would be more like It and less like The Shining. And finally, I wanted to conclude my pre-thoughts by saying that I did not have very high hopes for this film. Right, now that my pre-thoughts are out of the way, let me just tell you what I thought about Dr. Sleep. This film was fine. Not a huge fan. It's not terrible by any means. I watched it together with a friend and they fell asleep. So I guess this film was a little bit boring. I also had trouble staying awake, but we were both very tired. The reason why we were tired is because yesterday we stayed up late to watch Tenet. And that has nothing to do with this video, but I just wanted to brag and say that I have seen Tenet already. Anyway, Dr. Sleep. I thought the hotel, which I now know is called The Overlook, I didn't remember that from The Shining, but Dr. Sleep reminded me. I thought the hotel would play a much more prominent role. I didn't know this film was going to be about Danny and about his power of shining. But this whole shining thing is probably the thing I remember least from the film The Shining, which is kind of ironic actually. I did like how he locked up the ghosts that still haunted him. And of course I like throwbacks to The Shining. I can imagine that if you're a real big Shining fan, you would just scream a little bit every time a reference to The Shining was on screen. Ewan McGregor was great as always. I think he performed really well together with this young actress, and yeah, they were perfect on screen together. They had a very interesting and good dynamic. The cinematography wasn't that noticeable. I don't think the director or the DP tried to imitate Kubrick. Of course, Mike Flanagan is the same guy who did Haunting of Hill House, and it didn't really remind me of that either. It just was a very standard cinematography, which is fine, but I did expect a little bit more from it. However, the colours used and everything were very pretty. I enjoyed looking at this film. The story didn't really interest me. You've got these monsters who feed on the shining energy, and yeah, that was fine, I guess. Because of the story, this film felt more like a kind of superhero film for me, more like Unbreakable rather than a horror film. And in fact, the film wasn't really scary at all. Just like The Shining, yes, I think The Shining is not scary, I'm not sorry, it just isn't scary. So in that way it fit nicely with The Shining, but I would have liked to be a bit more scared. So, all in all, I would say that this film was perfectly fine. I enjoyed watching it more or less, but just like The Shining, it just isn't a film that I would voluntarily pick up and watch just for my own. And thus I'm going to give Dr. Sleep a 7 out of 10. Tomorrow I will be watching Birds of Prey, or The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. And that is also the last film of the Ewan McGregor-a-thon. So definitely do join me for that, and I will see you tomorrow.